Fam, before we get to the show, our attorney has asked us to make the point that we are not in any way affiliated with what's the production company, girl?
It's Cosgrove Muir Productions.
And you guys, go watch the episodes. I know I don't have to tell you this. If we just sat here for an hour and said, go watch the episodes, I'd be happy with that.
That's basically what we're doing, essentially, right? We're just using different words, but that's the vibe.
Anyway, now to the show. Girl, I am never going to get tired of talking about Unsolved Mysteries with you. When we're finished, can we just do it over again?
Yeah, why not? Sure. All the time in the world, don't we? We just have all the time in the world.
You guys, before we get to episode 3 of Unsolved Mysteries, oh my God, just a quick reminder, if you guys are looking for some more fun, some more hang time with G and me, join us on the Patreon. Over like 150, I'm going to say it, over 150 full bonus episodes to download and binge right this second, girl.
Yeah, we've been saying 140 for quite some time. It feels like a good time to bump up to 150. Yeah, it's where we do all the series, except for Unsolved Mysteries, because that's on this feed now. We're doing, the Jinx, Making a Murderer, Don't F with Cats, Tiger King, McMillions, I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Every famous, multi-part series that you guys want us to cover, it's all there. It's all on the Pates.
Ad-free, by the way.
Ad-free. We've got regular episodes ad-free, including these as well. So just go check it out. It's patreon.com/truecrimeobsessed. Or go to our website, click on the Patreon link. Girl, do you want to tell them about the merch and, what we're doing?
Yeah, that's also on our website, truecrimeobsessed.com. And we have all of the phrases that you guys like, which is still crazy to me that people want shit we say on shirts and mugs. But you have them now. And we're donating every single cent to charities that we love, and all of those charities are also on our website, so check it out.
Girl, can you tee up this episode a little bit and explain what makes this one a little bit different?
Well, it's very simple. This episode is all in French. Right. This takes place in France. It's actually, when you think about it, very easy. It takes place in France. It's about a French family, so it's all in French.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, there are no voiceovers. This isn't the Unsolved Mysteries of yore. This is the new version of it.
The thing about it, you guys, we went back and forth about how we were going to do the clips for this one. And at one point, we were talking about hiring voiceover actors to do.
Super Hot Husband Mike was going to do it because he is an actual voiceover actor.
But then Jillian said, she was like, well, there's a dubbed version. So we're just going to use the dubbed version. You're going to be hearing the dubbers saying the words, so they're not going to sound as impassioned as you're maybe used to hearing them sound in our documentaries.
Right, and you might also hear, because the dubbed version also has audio descriptions, which are amazing, and it's so great for accessibility, truly.
Yes,
but this guy's tone is very intense, so if you hear someone sort of sternly saying, close up on a picture of the sun, that's what the audio descriptions are. So they might come in, and there's your narration. There we go. We're back. It all comes together.
So it's called House of Terror, girl.
I know.
Holy shit.
Not a comedy. So someone is telling us,
I saw the house all closed up. I've always seen that house with the shutters open. It was a shock. I knew something terrible had happened. They seemed like a normal family. Totally normal, but no one knows what goes on behind closed doors.
And we see the outside of this house, and it's have you ever been to France?
Yes, briefly, and then I got sick and had to come home early.
Oh my God, girl, that's a terrible story.
It was horrible.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have been to France, I think 6 times or something. I love...
Get out of here.
I know,
What?
I know. I really, really love France. And this little town just looks so French, but these townhouses are not like New York City townhouses. The townhouses in New York are very narrow. They're famously narrow. They're fucking cool as hell. But these townhouses in France, in this town, what is this town called? It's Nantes. I was like, Nantes? But I think they say no. No. You guys buckle up for this episode.
And we have to do our best to not be just stupid ass dumb Americans.
I can say Marseille.
Yes, and then Versailles.
Yeah. The point is, we see the house where this terrible thing happened, and it's on this very fancy looking street, but this house is boarded up and it looks scary as all hell.
Yeah, it's at the same time incredibly French and incredibly scary.
Right? So we get the opening credits, we get the incredible theme music and that silhouette of Robert Stack, which gives me the chills every single time. Oh, I love it so much.
And now we meet Anne-Sophie. She's a journalist. She's with us throughout. And it's all the same. Basically, France lights up a room, essentially. Right. Like, it's the city of culture, peaceful, quiet, and this great city. And
France had a great smile, you guys. Everybody loved her.
Lit up a room. And, you know...
So we learn about this town, Nantes, I think is how they say it, Nantes.
Nantes is a large French city situated in the west of France on the Atlantic coast. It really is a city of culture. Life is fairly peaceful. Very quiet.
And we learn that in the center of this town, there's a residential neighborhood, and it's made up of like upper middle class people, they're church-going people, and holy shit, do we have to hear about them going to church all the goddamn time.
And really, Anne-Sophie is it's exactly what you expect, where she was like, nobody saw this coming. This is unthinkable. And it's also true because it's called the House of Terror.
Nobody ever sees what coming. You guys, cut to like a news footage of this church in this fancy town, and there's like all of these caskets being taken out of the church.
There are so many caskets. And it's one of those, it's an image where you kind of, at first, it's not hitting you what you're seeing.
I know.
And you're like, oh my, the caskets just keep coming. Oh my God. Why am I here? Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, and it's like we see the newspaper headlines and it's like House of Terror, and like we see this house again, and like now we're seeing footage of like the week that these bodies were discovered in this house. And like when you see like a roadside memorial and you see like a lot of flowers, this is not that. This is like mountains and mountains of flowers in front of this house. Like this family was beloved in this fancy little town.
And also like years later, I don't subscribe to this at all, but like years later it became almost a tourist attraction.
It's a house where after 2011, people slowed down or stopped to see what we call the House of Horror.
Everyone wanted to walk by this House of Terror. And to that I say, no, don't do that. I know you do it.
To that I say, what's the address, girl? I'm so awful. I googed the house. I've already seen inside of it. I've already done the street view. Like I'm that bitch that wants to see all this shit. No, wait, if you and I went to Nantes, France, would you not want to go see this house?
No, in a certain way, like to call it a tourist attraction makes it sound really, really gross. And this is something like I went to Salem, you go to the witch house in Salem, but to me, it's more like seeing the history of what happened and like understanding it. But to be like, oh my God, that's where they all were murdered. Like to me, that's like, don't do that.
Yeah, you can let yourself off the hook for the witch house. Like that's actually a major part of American
it's like
culture.
Historical. Thing.
You can go ahead and let yourself off the hook for that. So we then meet Estelle, the neighbor, and she's with us throughout, and we just learned that like she lives in this fancy neighborhood because like she lives on the same block as the family,
right?
And she's a seamstress, and she's like, I met them because like they would bring me their clothes,
and they brought some work in for me. I did alterations for the children. For Agnes. And I ironed the husband's shirts.
That just seems so French to me. Like the local neighborhood seamstress just lives down the block.
Yeah, that was what my grandmother was. My dad's mom. She was a seamstress. That's why she made all my Halloween costumes. And I had
God, I love it.
Her mother was a seamstress too. How Italian is that?
How can you afford to live in that neighborhood, like, as a seamstress? And good for you, Estelle.
You know why? Because no one can fix a goddamn button. Everyone needs your help. Oh, shit, you're a seamstress?
I know.
Can you make this dress have pockets?
But Estelle also tells us...
I saw the family regularly. I'd see Agnes picking up the children from school daily. I watched them pass the store every day. So it was a really lively, busy house.
So let's meet the family.
All right. So Count Xavier, he's a count, everyone.
He's a count.
That's the father. But, successful businessman, great personality, so quick to laugh. Who cares? I hate him.
He also has like a really weird broken tooth, but like still is in a lot of pictures with like
and no one talks about it? No one talks about the tooth.
I know.
Not even the audio description guy doesn't mention the tooth.
I know. And like, look, I come from a long line of bad tooth people. Like I've spent more time with a dentist than anybody I know. So I'm not making fun of him.
People.
Yes, we have really soft teeth in my family. It's really bad. But, like, you would think that he would smile with his mouth closed. That's all I'm saying.
He's a monster.
Right.
You know who's not a monster? Agnes. Agnes is the mother. She's a Catholic school teacher. And they have 4 kids. So Arthur is the oldest. He's 20 years old. Thomas, they call Thomas. Here's the thing. I feel like an asshole if I say Thomas. I feel like I haven't earned the right to say...
Well, then this is going to be a real long episode.
Thomas is 18, shy, loves musicology. Anne, 16, gorgeous, models for mail order catalogs.
My only pet peeve here, they spend 15 minutes telling us she's a model. Then they like throw away that she's the best student in the family. Could you have opened with how smart she is?
No, she's a girl.
Right. Yeah, I know. And
Not even Unsolved Mysteries is safe. And then Benoit, he's the youngest. He's 13. He plays the drums. So they're a musical, creative, nice, fun family. And so that's the thing about like, oh my God, the shutters were closed. That's why it was a big deal. It was like The Sound of Music, hanging out the windows, making, they were just like fun, like vivacious people.
Can I say one thing? I Googled counts. I was like, what is a count? Like, you hear, like, the Countess Luann and the count, whatever. Like, is a count very fancy? Guys, it actually turns out counts aren't very fancy. They're, like, in the lineage of, like, royals in Europe. And get ready. We're going to have to talk about this bullshit for a lot of this episode. God. But, like, in the hierarchy of, like, where do the counts fall, they're just somewhere in the middle. They're not that fancy.
Okay. Still, I love that the only countess you know is Countess Luann from The Real Housewives.
That's the only one I can think of. Money can't buy you class.
Girl.
So it's Monday, April 11th, 2011. It's 2 p.m. and the seamstress neighbor has not seen the Xavier family all day. And she is totally freaking out.
And on top of that, there's a note on the mailbox that says, essentially, stop leaving mail here. Thanks, bye. But in French.
It literally says, the translation is stop leaving mail here. To which I said, kind of blunt in France, no?
And just like how suspicious is, hi, please don't deliver mail here anymore. Just get your mail forwarded.
I know.
And then I saw the closed shutters. I said, that's so weird. I just felt something was wrong. The shutters were always open. Even when they went on vacation, they were always open.
And so, remember that Estelle, the neighbor, like, feels like she's, like, part of the family. Like, she's the one that's telling us that the house is always, like, lit up with people and kids and music and whatever. And the house is just empty and the shutters are closed. And she is like, something is going on here. And I was like, if that were me, I would have just been like, wait, did they move and not tell me? Are we not as close as I thought we were?
They're mad at you. Everyone is mad at you. And I'm only saying that because I know, because everyone's always mad at me all the time. So I'm an expert on people being mad and the feeling of they hate me now, right? Like it's over now. It's all of it's over. So, after 2 days of this just very weird feeling that she has, she calls the police and she's like, can you please just check in? I know the only suspicious thing is that the shutters are closed, but I promise you this is a big deal.
Yeah.
So they go, and the police that show up are local, and they just do like this home check-in to see if everything's okay. And they get in and everything looks fine. Oh, except that everything was stripped from the beds.
I was hoping you were going to say that because it took me until my second watching to really get this. They're like, everything was totally normal except like the duvets and bed sheets were missing and the hairs on my arms stood up.
I know. And so they're trying to say kind of like, and this is for you, Steve, because I know you do this. You kind of you clean up the apartment before you go go away for like several days so that when you come back, it's like, oh, it's the best.
All of that seemed totally normal. And the police felt the residents had left voluntarily. There was nothing that necessitated launching a formal police investigation.
The cops are trying to be like, oh, it just looked like they left on their own accord and they were just straightening up. But no one strips the bed. Like, what are you saying? Like, it immediately makes zero sense to me.
And Estelle, the neighbor, and I fucking hate this when like people in charge don't listen to the people who are making perfect fucking sense. Estelle is saying like, look, a couple of their cars were still there. And to which I was like, these people are rich. But a couple of their cars are still there. There's only one car missing. It's the C5, which I guess if you are European, that might mean something to you. But I guess it's a small car. And she is saying none of them are here. It is 6 people and 2 dogs and suitcases. There is no fucking way they all could have fit in that small car. That's the only car that is missing. Something is wrong. And she's like,
I don't know, but if you think about it, it's obvious, The police were staring at me and listening like they thought, what has she been smoking?
This all seems so solvable to me. Like, he owns a business, so find his colleagues and find out what he told them. She teaches Catholic school. Go find her colleagues. The kids go to school. Find out if any of their friends... Like, I'm not talking shit about France. I fucking love France. But, like, cops, do you not know how to ask questions over there, girl?
Well, So more questions are about to arise because now the letters get here. So to sort of answer our question, it turns out they're being sent to Estelle, the seamstress. They're being sent to their friends and neighbors. Like over a couple days, a bunch of these letters arrive. And so the letters are from Xavier and Agnes, allegedly.
Yes. And now this gave me a pause too, because I was like, wait, what? From Agnes too? These letters are typed and they're not signed, you guys.
The letters explain that. Okay, well, as you know, I had links to the U.S. The Americans have recruited me to infiltrate an international drug ring.
As you know, I've had links to the United States, and I've been recruited by the American government to infiltrate an international drug ring. So Xavier is basically saying, I know, it's very obvious. And he's like, this is going to be hard. You're not going to see us for a while. And here's the thing, because the thing is, we're going to change our identity and be under protection, and we won't be reachable at all. So do us a favor, keep it a secret. So, it's been great knowing you, but now I'm working undercover for the DEA.
This is so crazy. To which, somebody actually says, in France, he was very well liked. So the people who received these letters were like, maybe. And I'm thinking, who is falling for this? Like even if you sent me a letter like this, you just vanished off the face of the earth. You send me a typed letter that's not signed.
In air quotes, I sent you this letter.
Exactly. I'm like, why do these people believe that they would be allowed to send a letter saying, so we're going super deep undercover.
Exactly.
And we're only allowed to tell 14 people.
Yeah.
I've seen all 4 seasons of Better Call Saul, you guys. I know this is not how this shit works.
Yes. And the show that came before, Breaking Bad. Yes.
Yeah.
You know how much money it takes to go to that guy at the vacuum store and get a new life, a new identity? Come on.
And then you end up working at a pretzel place in the mall. You can't talk to anybody. I know how this
The whole point
works.
is that you can't tell anybody.
Right.
And also witness protection. I know a thing or two about a thing or two. You don't say
No.
a word to anybody. So then we meet this guy,
Oh my
Bruno.
God. Bruno. Okay, wait. I'm gonna give a go at his name. Bruno de Stabbenrath. His last name is Stabbenrath. You guys.
I'm going with Bruno.
Yeah, totally.
And Bruno is here to tell us, classic Xavier. Just like classic Xavier.
It's classic Xavier de Ligonnès. Hey, everybody.
Coucou tout le monde. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Big surprise. We've been transferred to the United States. That's totally Xavier. I can hear his voice.
We learned that this guy, Bruno, and Xavier, they grew up in Versailles together, and now we're driving around Versailles with Bruno in his fucking convertible.
Bruno drives a car in a city. A caption reads, Versailles, France. He stops at a busy intersection, saying,
The traffic is insane, huh?
I don't like this guy.
I don't either.
He's saying that they've known each other since they were 16, and he says, we became friends right away. And I was reading the subtitles, and I heard him say, toot sweet.
We became best friends right away.
Tout de suite.
Yeah.
Which
I caught that. I totally caught that too. So Bruno's here to tell us that really the reason they're best friends is because they're both nobility. So they totally get what it's like to be super fancy. He was like, he's a count. His dad was a count.
Yeah.
They had musketeers. There was a castle. And I'm like, I believe half of this maybe.
First of all, I did not have time to Google Musketeers. I know that Leonardo DiCaprio was in a movie about it, but I don't understand what the Musketeers are.
They use muskets. It's not tough. They're people who used muskets.
And he's saying that they grew up in Versailles, which is the home of the palace of King Louis XIV, and that there's all these aristocratic Catholic families. And that's us, girl. We're that aristocrat. And he is the one who talks about nobility and lineage and sons. If you guys think we're ever talking about the daughter again, forget it. We never mention the daughter again.
Right. And the reason Bruno is here to tell us this is because Agnes, the wife, fell in love with Xavier when they were really young, 16, 17. She was beautiful and smart, but Xavier, because he's a typical man, longed for adventure. So he had to break up with this beautiful, smart, badass woman because he wanted to see the world. So he does whatever he does. He comes home and guess what? Agnes wasn't sitting around waiting for the goddamn phone to ring. She is out living her life, doing her thing. What?
The look on your face. I love it so much.
How dare you think Agnes is just going to sit there waiting for you? But then he's like, oh, wait. Not only was she not sitting around for him, she's pregnant with somebody else's baby, and this piece of shit ditches her.
As far as we know, see, I've got questions about this. Because
Yeah.
what happens is Xavier comes home, he like reconnects with Agnes. They like rekindle their like romance, but she's pregnant with somebody else's baby. And then like Bruno, this fucking dirtbag, tells us like what a great guy Xavier is. He marries her anyway, even though she committed the cardinal sin.
Damaged goods.
Damaged goods.
You know, like, ugh.
I know, like the unwed, like the whole garbage nonsense.
To my great surprise, he chose to marry Agnès and keep her baby. That is, to adopt him and give him his name, Arthur Dupont de Ligonnès, which in Versailles you just didn't do. You didn't marry an unwed mother, a girl who had had a baby outside of marriage. I found that very courageous of Xavier to take that initiative.
But my question is, we are just to assume that the father of the child had abandoned her, but what if he didn't? What if like she abandoned him? Like we don't know. We don't
have no idea.
Yeah.
So, but what this means is the oldest son, Arthur, is not Xavier's biological son.
Right. And as stupid as this fucking French nobility shit is, he like brings him into it and like gives him his name. And Xavier seems like a great guy. Like everybody in this episode before like he brutally murders his whole family is talking about like what a great guy he is. And honestly, in this moment, he seems like a good person.
Yeah, because Bruno's like, well, in Versailles, you just don't do that. Like marry some unwed idiot and take her son who's not noble. And I'm just like, calm down, Versailles. Shut up. So I'm so over it. Like,
it's
who
so
cares?
stupid. I'm sorry. Like how do I say this? Like I'm interested in Meghan Markle and Harry, but like I'm interested in it in that like I know nothing about it, but I think it's interesting. But like
like the royal family in general.
Yeah, like I understand the sort of like fascination with it from a distance, but to live in an actual caste system sounds bananas to me. Why are we like participating in this?
Are you shocked to find out that I don't give a shit about the royal family? I've never followed the weddings. I don't stay up to watch the weddings. I'm okay. I get it. They're a royal family. Isn't that all there is to it?
Aren't they like 5 or 6 hours ahead? Why are we staying? Are they getting married at 4 a.m? Like what's happening?
We watch it at 4 a.m. because they get married at like 11 or whatever, or everything starts. The fanfare starts, right. Whatever. So Aunt Sophie, this journalist, she's like, can we review real quick? So what we've learned so far is this super successful businessman from a noble family that has a very long lineage that means a lot to a lot of people just wrote an 8-page letter. That's not me, just making up a number. An 8-page letter explaining that, oh, hold up, I'm actually a spy for the U.S. government, and here's a letter, a notarized letter to prove it, and also don't tell anybody.
And you're never going to see or hear from us again. Like, and then like the people in the town are like, okay, checks out, I guess.
You know who doesn't believe it? Agnes's family.
Right.
They're like, fuck this.
I literally put Agnes's family, the smartest people in France are like, no, bitch.
Them and Estelle are like, hello, can someone pay attention?
They drove to America in that C5 car? I don't think so.
So Agnes's family doesn't believe any of this for a second. So they take the letter and they send it to the district attorney's office. And they're like, can we look into this, please? Thank you.
But Agnes' family sent the letters to Nantes city prosecutor, saying, listen, this guy is telling all kinds of bizarre tales. Agnes would never leave the kids without making a phone call.
Then a couple days later, this all started on April 11th. By April 15th, the police returned to the house again. And the police will go to the house like 10 or 11 times. And every time they discover something new. And I'm like, what were you looking at the first 6 times? Like every time they go, they're like, oh, this is weird. Oh, now this is weird. So on this trip, they learn that, all the photos have been taken out of their frames. And all of these empty frames have been left all over the house. And one of the cops is like,
the police find that photos are missing from their frames. Like when someone leaves and takes the pictures that are dear to them.
And I'm like, nobody does that. You do that if you take also everything else. Right. No one's taking the bedding and the pictures out of frames and leaving in a car the size of a shoebox. That is not a thing that happens.
No.
Ever.
Oh God, this is so we're back to the word ghoulish, girl. Like I'm just thinking about like all of the days and hours that nobody is in that house and like what the energy of the inside of that home must be like with all the shutters closed and like
it's like evil is festering. It's like the longer it is dark, the more like evil and ominous it all becomes, you know?
So they go back on April 18th for the third visit, nothing. 19th, 20th, nothing. Each time they saw nothing. Then April 21st, the police find something strange under the terrace. Now, in Googling the shit out of this house, like the terrace, I think is what we would call a back porch.
Yes, they just keep calling it terrace. It's a porch, for sure.
And so there's like a back porch, and then there's like 3 feet of space, and then there's dirt like underneath it. And so as the cops are like inching closer to like what's down there, the district attorney is finally holding a press conference like somewhere else in town saying like, you know what, you guys, it actually is weird, girl, that this family just vanished. And like this all happens kind of at once where like the cops sort of dig up under the porch and they find bodies. And this happens in the middle of the press conference.
Then suddenly, the prosecutor halted the press conference and went to the phone. The prosecutor came back and said, "Listen, we're going to put this press conference on hold." The press knew something was up.
Now, everyone there, all the press knows full well that something gigantic just happened in this case. And he's like, BRB. And they're like, what? But what they find is so horrible. So they find these really large trash bags underneath this porch, and the bodies are in the bags. The bodies are tied up. They're wrapped in the blankets. All the bedding that was just like everyone took with them on their trip with the pictures. No, they were under the porch. So the bodies were wrapped in the blankets. They were put in plastic bags.
There's a small religious icon next to each body. A little candle, a cross. That illustrates it's an imitation of a religious burial. It also shows that there's an affectional bond between the perpetrator and the buried bodies.
It's as though what they had discovered was a Catholic burial, but it wasn't in a cemetery. It was under a terrace in a garden.
So a couple of things to know. Number one, the bodies of all 4 children, the 2 dogs, and the mom are there. The mom and 3 of the siblings and the 2 dogs are buried in one grave, and the brother, Tomas, is buried in a separate grave. So the body of the dad is not there. And so he immediately becomes the prime suspect. And so Interpol is notified, and basically an international manhunt happens right away.
Yeah, and then we meet the family lawyer who's like,
oh my God.
There's no way he did. I know it's the husband always did it. I know that.
Right.
And I know he's nowhere to be found.
For many friends, it's impossible that Xavier is the murderer. We know the individual, we know the man, and we know it's not possible. Where they found the bodies, it's very low down. Between the ground and the balcony, it's very low. And Xavier had terrible back pain. He always complained about his bad back, which kept him from bending.
And, actually, now that we're talking about it, Xavier has a bad back. I don't know if you know this. And there's no way he could have just crawled under this porch and buried the bodies there.
The family attorney is saying to us, Xavier has back problems. There's no way he could have killed his family. To which I said, girl, see if that holds up in court, girl.
Yeah, these provable back problems, where do they come from?
It's what are you talking about? And then everyone else is just saying to us, this doesn't make any sense. This guy, this dad was the mother hen. He always knew where his kids were. He was really involved in their lives. He hugged them all the time. And the note that I have made is that we've covered enough of these cases to know he didn't kill them out of malice, you guys. He didn't kill them because he was mad at them. I literally made the note, I cannot wait to find out about the money problems. It's always that. It's one of 2 things in these family side, as they call them, cases, where it's either I love my family so much and I'm about to be found out that I'm a total fraud and my kids are going to be disappointed in me and my wife isn't going to love me anymore, so I have to kill everybody. Or it's the Susan Cox Powell case where it's I'm not going to get to raise my kids, so nobody's going to get to raise my kids. It's always one of those 2 fucking things.
And for the record, it's always the wrong decision. Right?
Yes, of course.
Those 2 things are never the right idea, you guys.
No. I mean, but in their twisted brains, they don't kill them because they don't love them. They kill them because they love them too much. In air quotes, Yes.
100%. So now, there's the funerals and now the investigation starts. And we learn that the autopsy showed that the children either took or were given sleeping pills. I'm saying were given sleeping pills.
1,000,000%.
And Agnes didn't have any in her system, but she was using the sleep apnea machine.
Right.
So, and the reason this is important is because they discovered that the machine stopped working at 3 a.m., which is the actual witching hour. I don't know if it's 3:01 or if it's 3:08 or if it's actually 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But it stopped working in the morning of the 3rd or 4th of April. So they know that, okay, so in the middle of the night, this all happened.
And they think that the mom went first and then the the kids, and we learn, and I'm only telling you guys this detail because it becomes important later, we learn that each of the children were shot twice with a specific kind of bullet from like a specific kind of gun.
And they really want us to know that no one was caused any pain. Like they were given sleeping pills and then he shot them. This doesn't change anything. I don't go easy on anybody. But what I'm saying is, if it makes you, the listener, feel better, like there was no suffering here, they weren't tortured in any way. Like he just drugged them and shot them, and I hate him.
But here's the crazy thing, and this is a thing that I still can't figure out.
There was no trace of blood in the bedrooms. There was no blood in the living room. Nothing in the foyer or in the bathrooms. Nothing on any wall, any furniture, the ground. In other words, there was zero blood. 5 victims. A total mystery. How could someone kill 5 people in one house and leave no trace of blood?
I mean, we know that the dad did this, right? He killed them with this gun in their sleep. There was not a trace of blood anywhere in the house. Yeah. Like, the cops were in there 5 or 6 times before they found the bodies in the backyard. There was no blood anywhere, and I have no explanation for that.
I don't either. And this is gonna be a very ghoulish thing, I'm gonna say, and I hate that I'm even saying it and thinking of it.
Yeah.
He killed the 2 dogs too, and I think he had to have killed them first because they would go ballistic.
Yes, for sure.
The dogs would be and they would be like running around in the blood. Like those are like the paw prints. So he was thinking ahead, is what I'm saying.
Totally.
He was like planning this.
Right. I just don't know how it's possible. Like, did he cover the house in like how? How is this possible? I don't know how it's possible.
And then to wrap them up in the bedding that didn't have any blood or anything on it.
Right.
So like, where did this all come from if it happened in their sleep?
And to me, like, that's a huge part of this mystery that that wasn't investigated.
That is the only unsolved mystery here.
Yeah. Then we learned like that in the early 2000s, Xavier and his family tried to relocate to Florida, to which I just went, well, somebody doesn't listen to this podcast.
Oh, yikes.
Like, you're this rich, fancy count from France, and you're coming to America. Fine, I can accept that. But you're relocating to Florida. No offense, Florida, but no one is going to mistake Florida for Paris, is all I'm saying.
For Versailles, of all places.
Yeah, right.
Like royalty.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They thought it would be simple, when actually it wasn't. So they try that before settling back in France. Due to this failed American dream, they more or less have spent all their money.
So I don't know if they spent all their money or they couldn't get jobs. They didn't like it there. I don't know what the issue was necessarily, but they couldn't make it in Florida, and it was a failed experiment. That's the truth. I wasn't making a joke. I was actually like, it didn't work out.
The mean streets of Orlando, you guys. The thing is, this attempt at moving to relocating for good to the U.S. completely financially wipes them out. Girl, where did you spend? Did you invest in that timeshares with the Queen of Versailles people who live in Florida? Like, where did your money go?
Queen of Versailles? That bitch is in Florida. Of course she is. Queen of Versailles.
Maybe they were trying to move into her house. They got lost and confused.
Agnes is too smart for that. She'd never fall for the stupid Queen of Versailles. God. I remember when we recorded that, you were like, girl, you were really mad at that episode. Like, I don't know if this is going to be a good one. I was like, fuck it. I'm not doing it again. I hate those people. That's what it is. That's what the episode is. Totally. Absolutely not.
So they're back in France. They're broke. And I was just thinking, too, like, poor Agnes is like, girl, what have I gotten myself into? We tried to move to Florida?
I know. I feel the mystery of what happened to her when he was, like, going to see the world and she was living her life. Like, I know. My heart breaks for her. So, of course, like, I mean, you called it.
Yeah.
He was never the successful businessman. It was never this perfect family.
So eventually, he'll have to leave his house, etc. This is going to be serious with severe consequences. He was about to be found out, to be someone unsuccessful.
He's vain, proud. He doesn't want to lose face. He doesn't want his children to find out he's got no money, that he's ruined.
It's like he was on a mission to save his children from disgrace, from finding out their father didn't have the life people thought he had.
Everyone everyone, including his family, is about to find out what a failure and a liar he's been his entire life.
So now, January 20th, 2011, so this is 3 months before the murder, we find out that Xavier's dad dies. And we meet the neighbor, this guy Michael Clavelli, and he says, I lived in the same building as the Count. To which I said, isn't the Count supposed to like live in a castle with a moat and some shit?
Well, my first thing was like, all right, fancy. This Michael guy, like, he must live in this really amazing place.
Right.
And the thing is, and now I'm thinking, well, is Bruno also full of shit? Because we learned that, like,
I'm going to go with yes, girl. I'm going to give you a hard yes on that.
yeah, Xavier's dad just like lives in an apartment and he's a neighbor with this guy, Michael. Like, he's not living in Versailles. He's not
Right.
nobility. And that's fine.
Yeah, so it's this whole thing where like we just learned that the dad lived out his final years like in squalor. He was sort of like spirited away to this apartment wherever the hell it is, next door to Calvi. Next door to this Michael guy. And
Next to this, fuck it, this Michael guy.
I did my best, you guys. I really wanted it to be Clavelli. It's not. So anyway, Michael calls Xavier. He's like, girl, your dad died. You need to come and like clean out the apartment. I kind of also get the sense that Xavier and his dad weren't really close or whatever.
No.
So he gets there and basically Xavier, 3 months before the murders, is tearing his dad's apartment upside down, trying to find any cash anywhere.
Yeah, and he wants to see if there was any money left to him. He
Yeah.
wants to see the paperwork, but he's really, really interested in finding this ring. It's the signet ring.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I
Signet?
get it's again with the nobility nonsense.
It's like an heirloom. It's super valuable. Like a lot of men wear it on their pinkies, which I just can't.
God.
I know, girl. Please try going to a cigar club in Queens. It's like horrible. It's pinky rings until the cows come home.
He tried to find out if there was any money set aside.
Chercher un petit peu à savoir s'il y avait de l'argent de côté.
And apparently he didn't find anything.
Il n'a rien trouvé.
In fact, he told me there wasn't anything.
Donc c'est de la part de Xavier.
So those words came from Xavier's own mouth.
And then there's a second event, critical to this case. Xavier discovers that there's no money, but he does find a weapon, a .22 caliber long rifle.
So Xavier doesn't find what he's looking for, but he does leave with a .22 caliber rifle, which is the murder weapon. And this is 3 months before the murders.
So like that was in January. February 2nd, 2011, Xavier obtains a firearms license, to which I just thought, oh my God, this guy is like, okay, I'm going to take this gun and kill my whole family, but I'm going to do it on the up and up, you guys. I'm going to get a license to do this.
Yeah, and then also, though, a month later, on March 12th, he buys a silencer. So he's really making really, really clear plans.
Listen, being from Queens and a self-identified mafia princess, I have a question for you. Why?
What is it when you identify me as a
self-identified by me mafia princess? Why do silencers exist? The only reason you would need a silencer is to murder somebody. Why? Why do they exist?
Right. Maybe hunting? Could it be for hunting?
I guess.
And it's impossible, but it's like, how do we monitor how someone uses a silencer? We can't, is the answer.
I guess we just have to count on people to not murder their entire families.
You know what I've learned?
What?
We can't do that either.
I know.
It's horrible, but we can't even do that.
We can't count on that, you guys. We just cannot count on it. So then we get this story about Tomas. So remember, Tomas he's not the oldest. I think he's the second oldest, but he's Xavier's oldest biological child.
So like the heir, as Bruno wants us to know. Like the heir, but like for what? Like the dad doesn't have any money. And I just don't understand. Like Bruno is trying so hard to get us to think that there's this light, this beautiful light at the end of the tunnel filled with all this riches, all these riches, and it's just not there.
And so we learned that like the weekend of the murders, the entire family was together Saturday and Sunday, Tomas included. Tomas goes to like a boarding school. And so he goes back to school on Sunday. Sunday night into Monday is when these murders happen. But Tomas isn't there. So the dad calls Tomas on Tuesday. This dad is such a piece of shit.
I know.
And Tuesday, Xavier calls Thomas and tells him, listen, you have to come back. Your mother has had a bicycle accident. She's in a hospital, in a coma. We don't know if she'll come out of it. It's very serious. You have to come home.
This is like so cruel and evil to do to your kid, to do to anybody, really.
And then again, I've got 10 million questions. Tomas comes home. Not only is his mom not there because she's like in the hospital or whatever, but like all of his siblings and the dogs who have all been murdered are not there either.
And there's no bedding anywhere, and all of the pictures are out of the frames. And also, if it's such an emergency, why didn't he just go straight to the hospital?
I know.
Why?
I know.
Because we see like in the reenactment, like they're sitting at home. It's like Xavier and Thomas, they're sitting at home like having cocktails or whatever.
I know.
Why aren't you going straight to the hospital? I'm not blaming Thomas at all.
No,
it's
of course.
Xavier manipulating the situation and saying like, oh, visiting hours are closed. Like, let's just kick back and relax, and then we'll go see her tomorrow.
But like, where are the siblings? What's the answer for where are the siblings?
The dogs.
Or
the dogs or whatever.
Like, you're not texting your sister to be like, oh my God, mom's in a coma. Like, what is the story there? I need more information.
Yeah.
The last we hear from Tomas is at midnight when he sends a text message to a friend. His friend gets back to him. It's a little after midnight, and the message will remain unanswered.
After that midnight text, he's never heard from again. And we are to assume that he was given the cocktail with the sleeping medicine and was murdered and then buried in the backyard, and that's why he was buried in a separate grave.
Right.
So it's April 21st, right? This is the day the bodies are found. And all of a sudden, the cops are searching. They're searching for Xavier. But 3 weeks have gone by. And in this whole 3-week period, when the entire family was missing, the cops weren't listening to the neighbor. They weren't listening to Agnes's parents. They were like, no, girl, like, they told us. They went to Florida to join the FBI or whatever.
Did you not get one of those 8-page letters? Oh, I guess you're not at the cool kids club. Like, what are you talking about?
And so the other thing, too, is they're like, so now they're searching, and they're searching the restaurants and hotels. It struck me as very French that the first place they're looking is restaurants.
I know. It's like, we get it.
The food's good, you guys. Like, the food in France is actually really good.
Very quickly, on April 22nd, they find Xavier Dupont de Lyonnais' car in the parking lot of a small Formula One hotel in Roquebrune-sur-Darens in the south.
So, like, April 21st is when the bodies are discovered. April 22nd, they locate his car.
If they just started searching when Agnes's parents begged them to, we wouldn't be talking about this, and they wouldn't be on Unsolved Mysteries.
I know.
It took them a day to find his car after they finally realized, oh, well, maybe these two women, I know they're idiots, but maybe they're not all that crazy. Like, isn't that so frustrating that it didn't take them a long time the minute they actually tried?
I know.
The minute they started trying, they found the car.
And, like, they immediately put together a timeline of, like, exactly what happened.
The massacre of the family took place the nights of April 3rd and 4th.
Next day, Thomas is killed. April 6th, Xavier is seen outside his house.
The police discover that Xavier spent the whole week inside the house.
Xavier spent that entire week inside the house, not seeing anybody. So is he cleaning all the blood? Like, who knows what's going on, but he's not seen for a week.
And then they discovered that 1 week after the murders, Xavier Dupont de Lyonnais took his car and left Nantes. We know that because his car got flashed by a speed camera between Nantes and La Rochelle.
And then he's just really having a nice little joyride for himself, stopping at every restaurant in town and paying with a credit card everywhere he goes.
And the point that they're saying is that he's not trying to hide. So this is where the mystery part comes in, which is like, what's going on here? He's either a man who's about to go take his own life, and he's on like what they're calling like a sojourn through like southern France to all the places that were sentimental to him. Because they're saying in cases like this, 98% of the time, the man is the guy who kills the whole family, and he usually kills himself right there with the rest of the family, or a couple days later. And so they're saying, is he on this like sojourn through southern France to like see all the places that meant something to him and his family, and then he's going to end it at like the town where he was born or whatever, and like wander into the woods and take his life? Or is he trying to be caught on all these cameras on purpose to make it look like that's what he's doing, but really he's just going to like escape and run away?
Right. So now by April 14th, he arrives at this like beautiful coastal town, and he used to have this great life and the whole pilgrimage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And this is where they discovered his car like 10 minutes after searching for him.
Yeah.
So this is where we are. So and we get CCTV footage of him there too.
The camera captures Xavier walking across the parking lot,
carrying a bag. At the bottom of this sort of carry-all, clothes bag, there's a long object. So the investigators think he's got a rifle that killed his family. There, in the bag.
So number one, we actually don't get to see the CCTV footage, which makes me crazy that we know it exists and we can't see it.
If you could only see the question mark and exclamation points I have 2 lines of them. Where is the footage? Because someone says he kind of looked to the camera very knowingly that a camera was there, and almost like says goodbye in a way. He has this knowing look, but I can't tell you anything about it. I didn't see it.
And that's the whole point. The whole point is to say, like, is he he trying to get caught on this camera with a thing that looks like a gun? So because he's like, where he's wandering is like into what they call like the outback or whatever. Like he knows this town, he knows it really well. He's like wandering into the forest, and it's either genuine, like he's actually going in there to take his own life, or he's trying to make it look like he's going in there to take his own life, and he's trying to get caught on camera. So when the CCTV footage like is found by the cops, all of a sudden like all of France descends on this area trying to find him.
Right.
And so this is the question, you guys. Like, this is really the question. Like, because of course we also learn, and this is very reminiscent of the Madeleine McCann episodes, that like from this place in France, you can be in another country in like 20 minutes.
You know, in this area you can take a boat. The sea is 30 kilometers away. You can take a cargo ship to Fos, near Marseille. You can take the highway to go to Italy. You can even take the mountain paths to go to Italy. You can board a train and go to Croatia and start from there. It's totally mind-blowing.
You can be in a lot of places very, very quickly.
And this journalist is saying to us, like, he wants us to think that he killed himself. And the police believe that he took his own life. But I don't believe it. I don't think that's true. I think we know he speaks English. We know he speaks Spanish. You know, this is where the cop says to us, he's just a bland-looking guy. Like, he can blend in anywhere.
They're like, you know what the worst part about this is? And I'm like, the murder of the family and the dogs. And he's like, no,
No, not
stupid
that.
woman. No. The worst thing is that he's just so boring looking that he can really be anywhere. And I'm like, but what about those teeth?
I know.
That's
I
a
know.
distinctive characteristic.
I know. And like, that's kind of how it ends, you guys. Like, we get this on-screen text that says he's wanted for questioning in the murders of his wife and 4 children. And he's just fucking out there somewhere.
I know.
Girl, what do you think? What's your hot take on this?
I think he was eaten by the animals.
You do. So you think he
I
went out there and like
do.
took his own life?
I don't know if I think he thought maybe he could get away with it, and he just wasn't as cool. He wasn't as tough as he thought he was, because everything about him was a lie. I can't imagine, like, we've learned, like, even in Maura Murray, it's very hard to just like become a new person.
Yeah.
And I don't really buy all of this connection to nobility and being like rich and successful, but like he cleaned everything up really well. But I think he couldn't make it through those woods. That's I don't think he's off in Chicago somewhere. I don't think he's in Argentina. I don't think he made it through the woods.
I think that he meant to take his own life. I think that was his plan. Like, he was like literally not even trying to hide, like using his credit card and driving his own car. And then he wanders into the woods, and I think that he thought he would take his own life, but then I think he couldn't go through with it. I think he's out there. I think he's out there somewhere.
You think he just like made it, and now, like, again, I direct your attention to Better Call Saul. You know how expensive it is to just get a new life?
I know, but I'll tell you this, on Obsessed with Disappeared, we've covered 13 episodes, and 2 of them people successfully disappeared without money. Like, they just, like, one woman legitimately did not know anybody was even looking for her. Now, granted, this was a little bit, this was a little bit earlier than, it was 2008, this was 2011. So, Who knows? I mean, I get the sense that he's out there somewhere. I do. And like, I Googled a little bit, and like, people think that they saw him. I was telling you this story that there's a woman in Chicago not long ago, like since this episode came out, that, because at the end of every episode, it's like, if you have any information, like, write us at unsolved.com. And this woman like sent in a picture. She's like, I think I saw him. And the producer, this was in Entertainment Weekly, we haven't seen this photo, but the producer has, and she's like, it looked like him. I mean, it really looked like him.
And then, but what do you do? Like, send the authorities to Chicago? Like, what is the next step? I'm not saying, I'm just asking, like, truly, what is the next step? Like, how do we get this guy if he really was in Chicago?
If you were there, would you have the nerve to walk up to him and be like, are you Xavier?
No, because that wouldn't get me anywhere.
Right.
That wouldn't get me anything, to just go up and be like, oh, is that you? Like,
right. Cool story, though. Be great for the pace.
Because he'd be like, no.
Right.
I'd be like, okay.
You guys, we did Unsolved Mysteries episode 3. Oh my God, girl, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's horrible. Like, this is just a really tragic story, and I hate him. And then he's just like, yeah, either he's dead by the animals, hopefully, fingers crossed, or he's in Chicago eating pizza with a knife and fork like an idiot.
Right. The whole thing about there being no blood at the scene, I need answers for that.
That is an unsolved mystery.
You guys, if you're looking for more fun, join Jillian and I on the Patreon. At the $5 level, you get like 150 full bonus episodes to download and binge right now. It's all of the series, like I'll Be Gone in the Dark, McMillions, Tiger King, Lorena,
Fear City.
Fear City. Oh my God, so much stuff there. Ad-free versions of these episodes.
Yep.
And Our Undying Love.
Oh, that too. Isn't that a given?
That's a
but we should be repeating it more, though, I think. You're absolutely right.
We love you guys. I hope that you're enjoying these bonus episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. I'm having fun doing it. Are you, girl?
I'm having so much fun just giving them just more of us, which no one really asks for, but here we are. We just love it so much.
Well, I love you, girl.
I love you. This is great.
So great. And you guys, we love you. And we'll see you on Tuesday for our regular up, you guys.
Yes, we'll see you there.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye.
You guys, we're secret. Here's the secret. We're recording this in August, but you're hearing this in October. You're sweating now. You're sweating right now, but in real right now, you're like, are you wearing a scarf yet, do you think?
For the sake of the bit, absolutely. Yeah.
You guys, it's August and it is so goddamn hot.
The humidity. Every time I look at the weather on like AccuWeather, the air quality always says poor. And I'm like, oh God.
All right, so we're going into this first ad, you guys. We'll be right back, and we're going to get started on Unsolved Mysteries Episode 3, House of Terror, you guys.
Have we ever thrown to an ad like that? Ever? In a zillion episodes? What are you, a radio?
I know.
Z Morning Zoo? I said no about Z Morning Zoo. We're not doing it. We'll be right back after this. What? I'm thinking about October, I'm just getting happy. I'm thinking past August. I'm thinking far away from
Your Queens
August.
came out. Did you hear it? You're thinking past August. Meanwhile, I'm like, so we get our coffee, we go to the murder house, and I'm just that bitch.
I know. Good luck sleeping.